Hello, and welcome to Genshin Impact's MILF Challenge. This is a self-devised challenge in Genshin Impact where I use only tall female characters, or MILFs. I then apply this restriction to clear high difficulty content. In this video, I will be explaining my attempt to beat the Spiral Abyss. In Floor 9, all of the enemies are very low level. At this point, since I have maxed out my characters and equipment, I am able to completely crush all of the enemies without much effort. Even the Fatui skirmishers, I am able to burst down through their shields. So instead, I will be taking the time to talk about the builds for my characters. On one team, I have Jean, Rosaria, Sarah, and the Riding Shogun. Starting with Jean, she is my main healer, and the only MILF character with any healing at all within her natural kit. Her healing scales with her attacks, so I use 2-piece bonuses from the Gladiator's Finale and the Shimenawa's Reminiscence artifact sets. The goal here is to increase her attack stat as much as possible so that I can increase her healing output as much as possible. It just so happens that this also gives her an okay amount of damage output. Finally, she has the Aquila Favonia sword equipped, as it happens to augment her damage and healing very nicely. Any attack boosting sword or even an energy recharge sword would also work great on her. Rosaria has the 4-piece Pale Flame artifact set equipped, along with the Dragonspine Spear weapon. This renders her into more of a damage dealer, and she functions as my secondary damage dealer in this team. This build is comparable to Eula, and gives her similar amounts of strength, though with less burst on her elemental burst and skill. Rosaria, however, is also very versatile and can be built in many different ways. Her skill has the lowest skill cooldown in the game at 6 seconds, and when coupled with the Favonius Lance, turns her into a veritable energy battery capable of refunding elemental bursts very quickly. The most common artifact set with the battery build is to use the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, making her a much more support-oriented character. Kujo's Sarah is an offensive support who can give a percentage of her attack as a buff to allies for 6 seconds. As such, I have the prototype Crescent Bow and 2-piece bonuses from artifact sets Gladiator's Finale and Shimenawa's Reminiscence. This is designed to maximize her attacks as much as possible so that she can give as big an attack buff as possible. A bow or artifacts with energy recharge on them could also be beneficial on her, allowing her to recast her burst more quickly. Finally, the Riding Shogun is my primary damage dealer for this team, as well as a mini battery with her entire kit. Her elemental skill will generate an elemental particle every time it hits, and her elemental burst will generate energy for all characters after it is used. The Engulfing Lightning weapon and 4-piece bonus from the Emblem of Severed Fate artifact set are the best in class for her at the moment. The weapon and set cause her damage to scale with her energy recharge stat, which I aimed to maximize. She also has a passive skill that gives her electro damage bonus based on the amount of energy recharge she has. Any spear with energy recharge as a secondary stat would be suitable for her, since her damage output scales so well with that stat. Finally, a gameplay note. Her elemental burst accumulates chakra desiderata stacks, which functionally means that using other characters' elemental bursts or collecting elemental particles on any character will increase the damage output of the Raiden Shogun's elemental burst. My other team consists of Ningguang, Beidou, Shenhe, and Eula. In the past, I attempted to survive using only shields on this team and no healing, which did not work out. For that reason, I have attached the prototype Amber Catalyst to Ningguang so that she can heal a little bit, just to keep my team alive. At the time I built Ningguang and attempted this challenge, I did not fully understand the mechanics of the prototype Amber's healing, so I mistakenly thought that maximizing Ningguang's HP would increase the amount of healing done. I had the 4-piece bonus from the Tenacity of the MILF artifact set equipped in order to maximize her HP and provide a bit of support. Luckily, this mistake did at the very least make Ningguang tanky enough to survive multiple strong hits from enemies. For Captain Beidou, I built her in order to provide a shield rather than for damage. This may not have been necessary, but I do enjoy having 2 tanky units on my team. Beidou's first constellation gives her a shield equal to 16% of her HP every time she casts her burst. I equipped the Bell Claymore on her, which has an HP secondary stat, so as to increase the amount she would shield for. I also equipped the 2-piece set bonuses for the Retracing Bowlight and Tenacity of the Mylith artifact sets, increasing her shield strength and HP, respectively. Shenhe, like Rosaria, is also very flexible and can be built to fulfill many roles, whether that be a physical damage dealer, a cryo damage dealer, or as a support. I have built her as an offensive support here, using the Noblesse Oblige 4-piece bonus. Coupled with her skill and burst, It can augment the damage of my primary damage dealer. For best results, I try to use her burst and skill before unleashing my primary damage dealer's burst and skill. I also equipped the Favonius Lance on her so that she could act as a battery and generate a lot of energy particles for the rest of my team. Finally, Eula is this team's primary damage dealer, outfitted with the Pale Flame 4-piece artifact set bonus and the Skyward Pride Claymore. While this physical damage-focused build does make her normal and charged attacks hit rather hard, it is primarily designed to increase the huge damage output on her elemental skill and burst. A Claymore with energy recharge or any with an offensive focus would also work well on her. On floor 10, the enemies are still relatively low level and only require a little bit of strategizing. My Raiden Shogun team is strong enough that I am confident they can take down all of these enemies without much issue. Do note that in the second half of Chamber 2, I try to take out the Pyro Slinger Bracer as quickly as possible, since I do not have access to his corresponding weakness element of Hydro. The Abyss Herald and Abyss Lecter enemies are still somewhat easy, requiring only any other element to destroy their shields. On to floor 11, chamber 1. The Defend the Monolith challenge is not nearly as difficult in this iteration of the Spiral Abyss, since there are fewer enemies on screen at once, and most of them tend to preferentially target you rather than the monolith. The first half of floor 11 chamber 2 has enemies that are immune to electro damage, but luckily my Raiden Shogun team also has Rosaria as a physical damage dealer. She was able to take out the large electro slimes and electro specters relatively easily. second half of Floor 11 Chamber 2 features a fight against several waves of Hydro Mimic enemies. This point in the run is arguably where the Abyss starts to become difficult for me. These Hydro Mimic enemies can dish out a lot of damage, and it is actually fairly easy to die on this floor if you're not careful. The mallards and crabs have a near constant AoE of damage surrounding them, and the finches and frogs hit really hard, and their on-death water bombs also cover a very wide area and hurt quite a bit. Beating this stage required a bit of patience in order to heal my characters and prevent any from falling. Note too that proper timing of elemental bursts can be an easy way to avoid damage from the water bombs. The Raiden Shogun makes quick work of the 3 enemies in the first half of Floor 11 Chamber 3. The only thing of note here is that you want to try to kill both Kairagis in quick succession, or else the remaining one will heal itself. Finally, the second half of Floor 11 Chamber 3 has a fight with a Thunder manifestation. This enemy is also immune to electro damage, and was why I assigned the Raiden Shogun's team to the first half, even if that may have been suboptimal for Chamber 2. Luckily, farming Ascension materials for Sarah and Raiden Shogun have familiarized me with most of the Thunder manifestation's attack patterns. The main difficulty, aside from its high damage output, is that it can move and teleport around the arena quite a lot, making it more difficult to land hits on it. On to Floor 12. First half of Floor 12, Chamber 1 features a fight with the Perpetual Mechanical Array boss enemy. Unfortunately, at the time I played this challenge, I was not aware of the fact that mechanical enemies have a high resistance to physical damage. Had I known, I likely would have assigned my teams differently. Luckily, I still managed to beat it thanks to a bit of patience for healing, persistence, and luck. The Ruined Sentinel Defender can be hard to deal with when the boss splits into its mini-forms, as the shield it generates can prevent a lot of your damage. Disabling the others can help you avoid a lot of damage while you take out the main sentinel. Once again, my team is able to make quick work of the enemies in the second half of Floor 12 Chamber 1, thanks to the power of the Raiden Shogun. Jean's healing is also very important, and prioritizing getting her elemental burst back quickly is crucial to keeping my team alive. First half of Floor 12 Chamber 2 features a fight against a Pyro Primo Geo Vishap. It did take me a bit to get used to this enemy's attacks and learn how to dodge them properly. Once again, a bit of patience and taking the time to heal was crucial in allowing me to stay alive and eventually defeat the Primo Geo Vishap. The Primo Geo Vishap does have one attack where it will charge up its primary element inside its mouth and fire off a huge shockwave. In this case, it fires a Pyro Shockwave. Having a shield of the same element or of the Geo element would not only nullify all the damage, but would also reflect some of the damage back at the boss. Unfortunately, I do not have access to the Pyro element, which would have been necessary to form a Pyro shield with a Geo attack's crystallized reaction. Alternatively, I could have gotten hit by one of the boss's other Pyro attacks, and then gotten hit by one of its Geo attacks, which would then drop a Pyro shield. This is risky, however, since I would have to take damage, and there was no guarantee that the boss would use its charged up attack before the Pyro shield expires. The second half of Floor 12, Chamber 2 features a fight against 2 Abyss Herald Wicked Torrents at the same time. Having to fight 2 enemies at once does make it more difficult to dodge their attacks. The damage output of the Raiden Shogun was enough to carry me through this section. The first half of Floor 12, Chamber 3 has a fight against 2 Ruin Guards and then 2 Ruin Graders. Again, I was unaware of the mechanical enemy's high resistance to physical damage, but I was still able to beat this level. It is possible to completely disable both types of enemies. This requires 2 well-placed charged bow shots on the Ruin Guard's eye. For the Ruin Grader, you must hit its weak points several times when it exposes them during its attacks. It has a weak point in its feet and a weak point in its eye. Both must be hit multiple times in order to completely disable it. I did not have any archers in my team to shoot the eye weak points of either of the enemies, so I was not able to completely disable either of them. However, I did manage to stop the Ruin Grader from moving temporarily when I disabled the cores in its feet. Although I did lose my main damage dealer Eula near the end of this fight, I was still able to defeat the final Ruin Grader and finish the fight thanks to the damage output of the rest of my team. final chamber of the Spiral Abyss features a fight with the Magu Kenki. During the course of the fight, the enemy will summon a spectral form that cannot be damaged, and you must win the fight by damaging the main body of the Magu Kenki. I have had a lot of practice fighting the Magu Kenki, and I feel that this enemy also has very obvious telegraphs for most of its moves. It was fairly easy to dodge using the invincibility frames on my elemental bursts and then demolish it with the power of the Raiden Shogun. This has been the Genshin Impact Spiral Abyss MILF Challenge. Thank you very much for watching.